Welcome to another explainer. Today, we are embarking on a truly cinematic, absolutely awe-inspiring journey. We're going to bridge the gap between the everyday phenomena you see all around you, the rain, the trees, your own reflection in the mirror, and the universe's absolute greatest mysteries. We'll be exploring a profound philosophical and theological text that breaks down the very fabric of existence into a highly structured, logical framework.
Have you ever looked at a blooming flower or the vastness of the night sky and wondered if there's a deeper message hidden in plain sight? Welcome to a journey through the 33 windows. Okay, let's dive right into the foundational metaphor of this text. The source material asks us to imagine the entire universe, the macrocosm, and humanity, the microcosm, as this magnificent, brilliantly designed palace. Think about it. If a master wonderworker were to build an incredibly complex palace, they wouldn't just leave it in the dark, right? They'd install electric lights, set up communication systems, and crucially, they'd open up a window in every single room so that their own abode, their brilliant handiwork, could actually be seen. Well, the text argues that the universe is exactly like this. Every single level of reality, from a tiny microscopic seed to a giant swirling galaxy, contains a window that points directly to a unified creator.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, The Microcosm of Humanity. Subtitle, Intimate Signs of the Divine.
I just love the specific language the source uses here. In describing this grand palace of the universe, which obviously operates on massive, unbending universal laws, things like gravity or the orbits of planets, the text beautifully states that the Creator left a telephone in every heart. It's literally poetry, but it's such a striking metaphor. It means that despite the vast, sometimes intimidating scale of the universe, there's a line of intimate, direct access for every single individual. When the constraints of those massive universal laws just feel too heavy, you can pick up this metaphorical telephone and seek special, personalized help from a compassionate provider.
And that brings us right to window 1, the provision of needs. The text points out a really fascinating paradox here. Think about yourself, or honestly, any living creature. We all have incredibly complex physical and inner needs, and yet our own power is entirely insufficient to provide for even a fraction of them on our own. Succor, or assistance, comes to living things at the exact appropriate time, often from unexpected places that our own hands simply cannot reach. So the crucial point the text is making is that this absolute weakness on our part, paired with the perfect provision we constantly receive, logically points completely away from blind chance. The author argues it acts as a direct sign of a wise, compassionate provider, working just behind the veil of the unseen.
Let's move on and see how this idea actually builds into window 2. Here, the author asks us to contrast two things that are right in front of us every day: our shared, universal human biology and the staggering reality of our highly individual faces. In their basic formation, human beings all share a very similar anatomical structure: 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth. Yet, out of billions and billions of people, no two faces are exactly alike. No way!
The text draws a really powerful conclusion from this biological fact. It actually describes the human face as a most brilliant stamp of divine oneness. Think of it this way. When things exist in a shapeless possible state and are suddenly given a highly ordered, infinitely unique and wise physical form, differentiating one person from literally all others who have ever lived, that cannot just be mass-produced by some unconscious factory. This individuality acts as an inimitable, deeply personal stamp. It's a seal peculiar to a singular creator.
Moving right along to Section 2, Harmony and Mutual Assistance. Subtitle, Zooming Out to the Macrocosm. 400,000. Just take a second and let that massive number sink in. According to window 3 in the text, this number represents the distinct groups and species of plants and animals populating the Earth. It is an unimaginably massive army of life.
Seriously, think about the sheer logistics of managing an army of 400,000 different species. The text just marvels at how this army operates. They all require different sustenance, they need different weapons for survival, different uniforms or physical forms, and completely different instructions. And yet, they're all raised and demobilized, meaning they live and die, with absolute, perfect balance and order. None of them are forgotten. None of their unique needs get confused. Administering the whole shebang without a single error, the author argues that requires a power and wisdom that is absolutely boundless. It's an incredible logistical miracle happening every single second.
And this brilliantly illustrates what the text calls the chain of cooperation in window 10. We don't just have 400,000 species existing in isolation. We have a deeply interconnected system of mutual assistance. Walk through this step-by-step logic from the source with me. The sun, which is just a massive ball of burning gas, essentially cooks the provisions needed for life on Earth. Then, the unconscious elements, light, air, water, hasten to the assistance of plants. The plants then hasten to assist and feed the animals. And finally, the animals hasten to assist humans. Even down to the microscopic level, tiny particles of food hasten to assist the individual cells in your body.
As the text highlights here, this chain of incredible generosity and mercy completely shatters the idea of random chance. I mean, unconscious, lifeless elements don't inherently know how to act with perfect compassion and generosity toward human cells, right? This incredibly wise mutual assistance proves to the author that all these beings are acting under a single law, as officials and servants of a single, unique director and nurturer.
Okay, let's shift gears to Section 3, The Miracle of Life, subtitle, The Continuous Cycle of Creation.
Now, Window 23 tackles the concept of life head-on. The source calls life the most luminous and beautiful miracle of power, and it uses a fantastic analogy here to explain it. Just as the 7 distinct colors of the spectrum combine to make pure white light, or how various drugs are perfectly blended to create a healing medicament, life is a reality blended from numerous divine attributes. It appears instantaneously, out of nothing, constantly manifesting a mixture of power, wisdom, and mercy in a way that lifeless matter simply cannot achieve on its own. Then the text asks us to zoom out again and look at the macro-level cycle of life, specifically the transition of our seasons. It compares the literal death of the earth, when winter conceals the ground under a completely lifeless white shroud of snow, with the vibrant, explosive resurrection of a new, living spring.
Look at how striking this imagery is. The text explains that this continuous cycle of life and death on a planetary scale isn't just an ending. When the Earth dies in winter, our gaze moves to the past, looking at the corpse of the departing spring. But we know, with absolute certainty, that a new spring is going to come. The source argues that these past springs, these repeated miracles of power, act as a powerful, repeating proof. They show us that death is always followed by resurrection, acting as a massive, globe-sized window pointing to an ever-living eternal one.
Which brings us to our final act, Section 4, Guides to Divine Unity, subtitle, The Ultimate Luminous Windows.
Here, Window 32 focuses specifically on the Prophet Muhammad. If the natural world is a series of silent, visual windows, the text frames the Prophet as a living, articulate proof of divine unity. And he doesn't stand alone either. The text states he demonstrates this truth with 2 wings, the consensus of all the prophets who preceded him and the unanimity of the saints and scholars who followed him. He is framed as an active, speaking window, actively guiding humanity. And the source makes sure to emphasize that this window isn't somehow hidden or obscure. It is described as vast and brilliant. Millions of voracious, purified scholars throughout history, big names like Imam Ghazali and Rabbani are mentioned in the text, have looked through this exact window to seek knowledge of God. Their work validates its clarity and its light over centuries of rigorous, dedicated study. Finally, we arrive at Window 33, the Quran itself. The text features this incredibly powerful quote, "A book which we have revealed to you in order that you might lead mankind out of darkness into light." The author explains that if all the previous 32 windows are just drops from an ocean, the Quran is the source, the origin, and the fountain of all those windows. It's positioned as the ultimate light that makes the entire framework of the universe, from that smallest seed to the widest galaxy, visible and completely understandable to the human mind.
So what does this all mean for us? Well, the next time you look at a blooming flower or the vastness of the night sky, ask yourself, what deeper message are you finally ready to read? Our goal in publishing this explainer is to be helpful to you. If you think we have achieved our goal, that is, if this explainer has been helpful to you, we kindly ask you to like, subscribe, and share it with your loved ones. We hope to be together again.